So to put it simply, I keep things insanely simple when trading. I only use one indicator on my chart and I make over $10,000 per month as a day trader. So in this video, I will break down the entire custom trading indicator setup and the strategy that I use every single day to generate me consistent income daily. So this stupid simple strategy only uses two things. One is the understanding of price action and the second is the indicator VWAP. Those are the only two things that you genuinely need for a consistent trading strategy. So let's break down number one. So the first thing we need to do is have an understanding of price action. Let me give you this secret right now. No matter what trading strategy you are using, it doesn't matter if you're using supply and demand, order blocks, fibs, it doesn't matter what strategy you're using. Price action is the number one thing that you need to pay attention to. So this quite literally could be the most important video that you watch on your trading. So there's two main parts of a candle that we need to pay attention to, right? Your first is going to be your wick, and the second is going to be your body. This is pretty much the entire makeup of a candle, right? Now, there are two things that I want to pay attention to when it comes to these. I want to pay attention to pressure and I want to pay attention to momentum. Pressure is essentially telling you exactly where the market is currently going to go based on where the orders are coming in from. And a lot of the times we can look at wicks to determine exactly where this pressure is currently coming from. For example, if we're moving to the downside here and we've got ourselves one candle that looks like this, and has a massive selling wick right here, well, this means that there are a lot of sellers that are stepping in at this point. So this means that we have a lot of selling pressure. This generally indicates that we are looking to continue that downside trend. When we're looking at this candle right here, we know that we have a massive downside wick. This is going to show us one main thing, that originally we were trying to make it all the way down here on this candle, but buyers were so strong that they have bought up this entire thing, causing this candle to have a flip towards the upside. So who's most likely to have the pressure right here? Well, we know that buyers stepped in heavily, so currently we are looking like we have buy side pressure, right? So we want to pay attention to where these wicks are going. If we see that we have a massive wick to the upside, that's showing selling pressure. Massive wick to the downside here will show buying pressure. Whoever has the most amount of pressure is more likely where the stock is ending up wanting to go. Now, once you have a good understanding of pressure, the main thing we need to understand next is going to be momentum. This is indicated by the actual candle body. So when we start to see these candles become really large here, this is showing a lot of momentum to the downside. But what we're noticing based on this is as this price comes down, the one thing that we're starting to see is smaller and smaller candle bodies. This is indicating that we are decreasing in selling momentum. We originally had this massive amount of momentum here, but as you can see in every single candle, this momentum gets weaker. What is most likely going to happen when the momentum starts to decrease over and over? Well, we're probably going to flip to the other direction. And what also is happening here, right? When we start to see that the momentum is decreasing, look who starts to step up. As you can see here, buyers are currently stepping up in this area, and that is showing that we have a lot of pressure to the upside and momentum is decreasing. When we have pressure moving to one direction and momentum decreasing at the same time, we have a massive flip to the other direction. So this is something that I want you guys to pay attention to throughout the entirety of this video. So in this entire video, I don't want you to just pay attention to the indicator. I want you to pay attention to where price is currently at and how we know exactly when to take these positions. All right, now let's head over to the indicators tab and type in VWAP. The first thing we're going to see is volume weighted average price. Add that to your chart, and that is pretty much the only indicator that you are going to currently need at this point. What you can do is go over here, take off upper band 1, lower band 1, and bands filled 1. This will just leave you with this blue line here. So this blue line is essentially going to tell us exactly where we think that price is most likely going to go. But before I show you this exact entry model, we need to actually identify the rules. What needs to happen for this position to go exactly the way that we want it to go? The first rule is we need to make sure that we are always in trend. Okay, so no matter what position I'm taking, it's going to be in trend. And the way that I figure out exactly what the trend is by going to higher time frames, for example, the 1 hour or the 4 hour, to pay attention to exactly where we are in current trend. So what this is going to look like is we're going to see something like higher highs, higher lows, lower highs, and lower lows. So in this example here, look at what's going on. We have a ton of chop. this is going to be a very, very difficult place to enter a position. No matter what strategy you're using, it's going to be so difficult to find an entry in this. And so that's why I'm not even going to use this in the example. We're going to go back and find a different time. So for an area like this, it is much, much easier to identify exactly where we're going to take each position at, right? We can start to see our higher highs. We can see our higher lows. We know exactly where we are in terms of trend. We are in a very, very clear uptrend. So no matter what happens, guys, we do not want to be trading in this, okay? This is the last thing I want you to do because a lot of people get caught in this garbage. In fact, I have a lot of mentorship students that work with me one-on-one, and they literally fall for this all the time where they get stuck in a sideways chopping pattern. Instead, make sure to go to those higher time frames, identify exactly where the trend is, and then we can start to look for our entries. Step number 2 of this strategy is to make sure that we test VWAP, okay? No matter what happens, I want to end up testing VWAP. And so when we look at something like the 5-minute or the 15-minute, which is usually where I'm taking trades on for this strategy, let's go to the 5-minute, for example, and let me find that specific area. All right, so no matter what happens, we want to make sure that we are trading in the direction of the trend. So in this specific scenario, we already know that we're in a massive uptrend. So every entry I take has to be bullish. Step number 3, when we retest VWAP, the main thing we want to figure out is exactly where the pressure and where the momentum are on the chart. That way we know whether or not we're actually looking to continue trading in the direction of trend, or are we actually looking to flip. So in this specific scenario, we come down to VWAP, we test VWAP, and we have a lot of buying pressure here to the upside. This pressure shows that we're most likely going to continue to the upside direction, right? Then what we start to see is a lot of momentum kicking in here. Look how large these green candles are. So we have buying pressure, we have buying momentum. This gives us the opportunity to enter to the upside. So we know exactly where our pressure and momentum are. We know that we want to look to the upside. How are we actually going to enter this trade? Well, once we have a massive momentum candle here that ends up breaking previous highs, that's where I'm getting a very, very large buy sign from. So I'd probably enter the moment that we break this high right here for a continuation to the upside. And the way that I would do that is by setting my long right here, and my stop loss would most likely go below VWAP, because obviously we know that we need to have a stop that invalidates this position, right? And so what did we take this position based off? We took it based off trend analysis, we took it off of price action and VWAP. So if we happen to break to the downside, I probably would wait until we broke VWAP and then continued through VWAP for me to get stopped out of this position. You can take it tighter off the actual retest of VWAP itself, but of course that is the riskier entry, right? Because we don't know whether or not this is actually going to continue to the downside at this point. So I would enter right here the moment that we break these highs. That gives me a lot more of an understanding of where price is most likely going to go. And for your target, there's a few things you can do. The first thing would be to put the 20 EMA on your chart and just hold until we break the other side of that 20 EMA. That is a relatively decent strategy that you can use to exit. But for me personally, I'm always going to wait to exit until trend shifts again. So for example, right here, we know that if we break this low, then trend is most likely going to shift to the downside. So I just hold this trade up until trend ends up getting broken, and we have a signal that shows us that we're probably going to continue to the downside here. So I would hold the hell out of this trade until we get all the way up into that point. And that right there is an insanely green trade. Remember, always be in trend. Always find a VWAP test and establish momentum and pressure before entering your position. So here's example number 1. As we're coming down here in a very clear downtrend, you can see we're making new lows over and over again. We then fail and we come up to try and test VWAP here. Look at how quickly we pretty much invalidate this move and look to flip to the other side. And look at who has the pressure currently. This pressure right here belongs entirely to the sellers. So we know that sellers are most likely in control here. One thing that we are also seeing is an increase of momentum on every candle. So look at how the momentum candles are getting bigger. So this is showing, yeah, we're probably looking to go to the downside here. And on top of that, when we look at this candle right here, this green candle, this still has a smaller candle body, so smaller momentum to the upside than this previous candle. So this is showing we're probably going to continue to the downside. One thing that we need to look at is where the pressure is, and we see that this momentum candle ends up breaking lows. This is where I would get my entry right here. But this is where most people will probably mess themselves up, is they would put their entry right here and put their stop loss all the way above VWAP here. This would be a ridiculous stop loss. It's not something that we can actually like hold. Most people can't hold a stop loss like this. So what I would do is I would always put my stop loss on the other side of highs, right? As you can see in this scenario, we just need to figure out when this invalidates. And if we came back up to reclaim all of this over these highs, I'd probably be interested in stopping out at that point, right? Because I mean, if it flips there, it flips there, so be it. And so, like I said, you have a couple different options of where you're going to target. The first can be something like a whole psych number, like 468. That could be a pretty decent whole psych number to target. Or you can throw on something like the 20 EMA on your chart and hold it until the 20 EMA is broken. So if we take a look here, this thing ends up flying, continuing all the way to the downside, and you can see that this ends up just having a massive, massive move to continue. Now, for me, like I said, I'm holding until trend shifts. So right here, if we break that high, trend is looking like it's going to shift to the upside, right? You guys can see that. So this next candle, we try to come up, we fail that trend shift. So I'm still holding at this point. And let's see if there is a trend shift here. Okay, here is where our trend shift ends up being. So we can see right there, we have a trend shift. If we break this high right here, this is showing that we're looking to change character and continue to the upside. So this is where my final exit would be. This strategy is insanely, stupidly simple, and it happens every single day. This is the name of the game right here. Find an insanely, stupidly simple strategy and exploit it, right? That's what I want you guys to do. Mentorship spots are officially open for June. So if this is something that you truly want to scale, you truly want to quit your 9-to-5 or whatever your end goal is, if you think you're a good fit to work with me one-on-one, I've scaled over 400 traders to 5 figures per month. So if this is something that you want to do, so if you are tired of losing, you're tired of being stuck, or honestly, you're just fearful of getting started in the first place, go to the first link in the description, fill out an application to work with me one-on-one. And if you want a little bit more of an in-depth guide on this strategy, watch this video right here. It's popping up on the screen and you will see pretty much everything you need to know. I'll see you guys all next week. Later. Bye.